welcome to the CNBC TV 18 Investment Guide. We come to you every Wednesday at this time, and this is the show where we get away from the immediate here and now of the market, step back, take a look at the bigger picture, and go back to the classroom, the basics of investing. I'm Surabhi Upadhyay, and with me is Anuj Singhal. Hi, Anuj.
Hi, Surabhi. So, you know what, today what we have is very interesting topic because, over the last couple of weeks, we have covered the basics of investing. I think today we will, get into the kind of mistakes that a lot of people make, especially, when they are not able to distinguish between investing and trading. Because a lot of people, get into a stock thinking that this is going to be their big investment. And then, at times, they are, trading in and out of that stock. So not able to, identify the stock in terms of whether it's a long-term investment or a trading pick. So all of that is coming up. In fact, our guest today is an important one. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, we are going to be talking with Nilesh Shah of Kotak Mahindra AMC in the next couple of seconds.
Okay, let's start this conversation. Then we have Nilesh Shah, Managing Director of Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company, who's now joining us. Nilesh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And you are someone who has, of course, made that journey. You started as a debt fund manager, and now you oversee debt, equities across the board. The first question that I want to discuss with you, and this is something that we have discussed many times in our investment camp as well. This whole topic that you keep discussing, investing versus trading. When you enter a stock, do you decide upfront that, this is going to be my long-term investment or this is going to be my trading bet? When do you make that decision? And as you go along, what are the key factors to look at while distinguishing between investing and trading?
So trading and investing can be compared as a T20 versus test match. When you are playing in T20, you don't decide halfway that, oh, it's a T20 and not a test match. You are going in T20 knowing fully well that you have 20 overs to score run. On the other hand, in test match, you don't start like T20 and halfway you realize that, oh, this is a test match and I should have played slowly and build my innings. So you have to decide upfront before taking an investment decision. Is it trading? Is it investment? Most people make the mistake of converting trading into investment when they suffer losses. This is not appropriate. The difference between trading and investment is fundamental. Trading is all about momentum. Investing is all about fundamentals. Trading is all about discipline. Investment is about discipline, but with a laziness. Trading is all about fast actions, split eye decision. Investing is all about watching your paints dry over a period of time. Trading generally involves leverage. Investment, by and large, is without leverage. Trading, you apply the concept of stop loss. Investment is all about averaging on the way down if the prices fall and value doesn't. So this is as different as T20 versus test match. The basic technique remains same, but you build your inning carefully.
Let me come on this. In fact, you said, in a trader's card, biggest rule is to never average their losses, to cut their losses sharp and to let the winners run. And are you saying for investment, you can average? When do you average down on a stock in which you have conviction?
So the real challenge in investment is that you have to maintain your equilibrium. You bought a stock assuming fair value is X. Now, if the share price goes down and fair value doesn't, then you must average and increase your bet. You buy things as they become cheaper. You don't cut out because they are becoming cheaper. So in trading, you apply strict stop loss theory. Your bet goes wrong, you cut your losses, move to the next trade. In investment, you remain committed to that stock and you keep on buying more if fair value doesn't reduce, but for whatever reason, stock price is falling.
Okay, so those are some things to keep in mind. Clear distinctions between the two, investing and trading. Nilesh, great to have you on the show. Let me sort of introduce one more concept, which a lot of people use, some wisely, some very unwisely, and that's leverage. So how do you use and prevent the misuse or abuse of leverage, whether you're investing or trading?
So Warren Buffett said that derivatives are weapons of mass destruction. And he remains one of the most efficient user of derivatives. Now, derivatives or leverage is like a double-edged sword. If you know how to use the sword, it will protect you. If not, it will end up hurting you. One thing people must remember, that markets can remain irrational more than you can remain solvent. There are periods where stock prices behave based on fund flow and not necessarily based on fundamentals. And hence, if you are leveraged in a position, you could be in serious trouble if stock prices move against you.
Nilesh, since you said about Warren Buffett, let me in fact take our first query for the day. The query 1 should come up for you. And this is a query from Saurabh Joshi. And he's saying experts, including Warren Buffett, of course, say that diversification into multiple stocks is not a good thing, and one must understand the business thoroughly in which you invest and keep the portfolio small. He wants to know whether this is a good approach. Keep your portfolio small, 3 or 4 stocks, or diversify into, say, 10 to 15 stocks. Of course, you can always choose mutual funds, but those who want to go for direct investment, if you want to take this query.
So if you look at Berkshire Hathaway's balance sheet, they have invested in more than 70 businesses. They have more than 70 subsidiaries. And their own direct investment in stock is more than 40 stocks. So clearly when Warren Buffett says that you should not over-diversify, he's not restricting himself to number of stock or number of business. He's just looking at his management span, his attention span, and the quality of business which he likes. The most important part of what he said was that do your research thoroughly and then invest. You don't invest based on tips. You don't invest based on what someone else is recommending. You must invest based on what is your conviction gathered through your own analysis. You can listen to all, but do what you think is appropriate. And there is no one path to nirvana. There are people who have made money by investing just in one stocks. And there are numerous companies where ESOP holders who never sold their company shares have created tremendous wealth. On the other hand, there are people who have made money by diversifying their portfolio. Do what is appropriate to you. My simple recommendation, again, coming to cricket side, is that Sourav Ganguly was left-handed batsman. Sachin Tendulkar is right-handed batsman, and both of them are great batsmen. Suit your style.
Okay, so that's the way to play it. Now, let's introduce one more component into this, quality and so-called non-quality stocks, Nilesh. There are people who would say that what's the harm? You can try and trade in and out smartly, even in a quality stock. So how do you, apply the process here?
So, there are very few quality stocks in the market. And if you are lucky to own one, why should you seek a divorce over there? Why should you move out of it? When you are investing, it's investing for next generation. There is a watch, Patek Philippe, whose tagline suggests that you are mere custodian of this watch and you inherit it for your next generation. Similarly, quality stock should be bought with a view to pass it on to the next generation as long as they remain quality. Going in and out of that quality with the benefit of hindsight will look very favorable, but in real life, very few people will be able to do it. If you see the richest investors in India as well as world, they have made tons of money by staying with quality stocks over a period of time, rather than by going in and out of quality stocks. On the other hand, in trading, yes, you have to play momentum. There your guards could be lowered to include even non-quality stocks, but with a strict stop loss. So don't confuse between trading and investment, between quality and non-quality. Quality is a permanent marriage. Non-quality, you can flirt a little bit.
I tell you, Nilesh, I was having this conversation with two of my market friends last week, and one was very happy that he invested in Reliance and made a lot of money. The other guy said, you know what, I beat you with investment in Idea. And I mean, of course, I'm not saying that this is a non-quality investment, but you get the gist, right? There's always this temptation to look at the smaller stock, and not look at the larger stock. So what happens when you have this kind of temptation?
So you must remember that how many penny stocks have grown over a period of time to deliver return to investors. The strike rate of world's best traders are roughly about 50%. That means 1 out of every 2 trades, they have gone right or they have gone wrong. On an average, most investors, most people who are trading, their strike rate will be 20 or 30%. That means in one trade, you have to make so much money that it can cross-subsidize the losses of 2 or 3 trades. Now, keep this in mind when you are trading. You really have to be exceptionally disciplined to make money. And let me give you an example on the trading side. There is a book called Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, a person called Jesse Livermore. He made $1 billion profit on a day when everyone lost money in stock market in the late 20s, 30s in New York. On the great crash day, when brokers had to commit suicide, investors were all depressed, Jesse Livermore returned with a profit of more than $1 billion. There could not have been better trader than Jesse Livermore. Yet, after a few years, he had to commit suicide because of losses on his trading portfolio. My humble submission, with no disrespect to anyone, even if you are Sir Donald Bradman of trading, in your last inning, you will end a lazy investor by picking up quality stocks and let all those brilliant, smart managers work for you. When I buy 1 share of Reliance, I ended up becoming partner with Mukesh Ambani. When I buy 1 share of TCS, I ended up becoming partner with Tata's. The quality stocks investment should be considered as a partnership with the best of the Indian businessmen and let them work for you.
Well, that is the beauty of equity, isn't it, Nilesh? That indeed you own that 1 share and you're part of the business. And if you're in it for the long haul, then, well, you reap the benefits if it's the right business. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. The conversation continues and a lot of your other questions will be answered as well. So keep it with us right here on Investment Guide.
Welcome back. You're watching CNBC TV 18 Investment Guide. Today is the 3rd episode of this series, and of course, we are in conversation with Nilesh Shah, Managing Director of Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company. Nilesh, the other issue, and this is something which is very close to my heart as well, because this is a bit of a shift that I've seen. A lot of people have stopped asking for tips. They have started to ask how to identify stocks. So you tell us, have you ever in your investment career acted on a tip? Of course, now you would be doing your own research, but have you ever in the past acted on tip? How did that pan out? And what would be the lessons in terms of this whole tip versus research debate?
So in my early stage of career, during 91 phase when Harshit Mehta took stock market to DC heights, I practically followed tips given by everyone, and I ended up losing all my money. It was a great learning experience, albeit at a very high cost in those days, but with the benefit of hindsight, that was the price worth paying. Thereafter, I have moved to research. And one thing I want to break the myth that, investment is all about complicated things. You require chartered accountants, MBA, IIT, IIM degree. No way. Investment is all about common sense. And I'll give you two examples of that. Peter Lynch of Fidelity Magellan was, in his days, one of the most successful equity fund managers. He used to manage world's largest equity fund. His track record was exceptional. He took his team of fund managers to compete against school kids. Fund managers were obviously hurt in their pride that, oh, we have to compete with school kids. But school kids picked up stocks, a portfolio of stocks which outperformed all those fund managers. Why did the innocence of school kid outperform professionalism of fund managers? Very simple. Fund managers were under pressure to perform and hence ended up choosing all complex stocks. Kids had no pressure to perform, so they ended up choosing stocks of companies whose product they were using. They were eating Cadbury, picked up Cadbury company. They were using cereals, they picked up cereal company. They were eating colas, they picked up cola companies. And that portfolio outperformed professional fund managers. So investment is all about common sense. I would also like to share my own experience where wisdom plays a far bigger role over research. Long back, I had gone to attend one FMCG company's AGM. And in those days, you used to get snacks during AGM. So there used to be a lot of crowd. And when the meeting got over, the company had presented DC presentation showing market share gain in every category they were operating. They were really the leader in everything what they were doing. And when the AGM got over, we were moving out, and ahead of me there was an old gentleman walking very slowly. I was fortunate enough to walk behind him, and that gentleman asked question to the person who was walking along with him कि बेटा ये कंपनी तो माउंट एवरेस्ट पे पहुंच गया, अब आगे कहां जाएगा? This FMCG company was trading at about 100 P because the past was glorious. But that old gentleman's one-line wisdom that this guy is at Mount Everest and where will it go from here made me think. And when I came back to office, I told my research team that let's find out how this company will be able to generate growth which can justify 100 P. Eventually, over the next 8 years, that stock got derated to 30 P. Of course, this stock is a great value creator, but it suffered 8 years of underperformance. And I owe entire credit to that old gentleman's wisdom who pointed me towards right direction. So investment is all about common sense. An individual, if he applies his common sense, will be able to outperform professional fund manager in investment without any doubt.
Okay, all right, Nilesh, we have one more viewer query, if you could take this up. And this is interesting. Imagine asking the top boss of one of the key AMCs and the chairman of AMFI this. Now, this is a query from Romil Shah, and he's looking at alternatives to mutual funds, actually. He's asking about, REITs and InvITs. He's saying what are the different avenues of investment, such as REITs or InvITs or even ETFs beyond mutual funds. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if it's sort of a wider sense out there, Nilesh, because there's been underperformance in actively managed funds in the last couple of years. What would you say?
So ETFs are very much part of mutual fund, and you should be investing into index funds as well as ETFs, which are part of mutual fund and which are generally associated with lower cost because there is no active fund management. Today, many funds underperform their benchmark index not because fund managers are doing badly, but because we operate within constraints. For example, I can't put more than 10% in a stock, but Reliance Industries today is more than 14% in Nifty. I have to keep cash for a day-to-day redemptions, but indexes does not have cash for redemption. When a stock goes into index or goes out of index, it happens on an overnight price basis. But in real life, you can't liquidate your portfolio without impact cost. So on a level playing field, are Indian fund managers adding value to its investors? Answer is yes. And the day we will stop adding value, we will lose our job. Then people will migrate towards ETFs and index funds. InvITs, REITs are alternate investment funds. They are also important for a customer's portfolio But please make investment by doing a proper research. Don't invest because it is trendy to invest into InvIT or REIT. The first InvIT which came out has given a disastrous experience to investors. It was worth avoiding with the benefit of hindsight. On the other hand, many subsequent InvITs and REITs have created tremendous value for investors. So don't invest for the sake of investing for novelty value. Invest based on your research, buy what is cheap, sell what is expensive.
All right, Nilesh, we just have under 2 minutes left, and now there's a rapid fire coming your way, so you have to quickly answer whatever comes to your mind. Couple of questions. Here's the first one. What would you say has been your biggest lesson in the stock market?
Buy quality, quality, and quality.
Okay, the most important filter, Nilesh, while selecting a stock?
Governance, governance, governance.
Okay, a key ratio, any financial metric that is your go-to ratio while you're selecting a company?
Company should earn more than the cost of capital reflected in return on capital employed, and it should generate free cash flow.
The best stock pick of your career, Nilesh?
I backed a young entrepreneur in almost 20 years back, Nirmal Jain of IIFL. I bought his shares at par, and I have made multiple times return on it.
Okay, IIFL is the one then. The one regret or maybe mistake in all these years?
Well, I didn't load as much as I should have loaded in many of my winners. So I have identified a couple of 100 bettors, but I didn't load on them as much as my financial position allowed at that point of time. Here, that over-diversification ended up hurting me.
Yeah, that's something I've heard from you in the past as well. Finally, your most bullish theme right now?
Anuj bhai, I think contract manufacturing firms is like the IT industry of 2000. People who are supplying consumer durables and other materials to global company in India, if they become part of global supply chain management, we will see many multi-baggers coming out of that field.
Okay, Nilesh, so as we are timing out, last 10 seconds left, what is that one word of advice that you would like to give to a lot of new investors who are joining the equity cult and doing so in the direct way?
Just follow two rules. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1.
Okay, and the best time to start an SIP was 14 years back, and the next best time is?
Today.
Nilesh, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, with that, Surabhi, it's a wrap.
Yes, so we will take your leave on this edition of Investment Guide. Do keep sending us your feedback, your queries, any questions that you want answers to, people you would want to hear from, and we will take it up in the coming weeks. It's a wrap from the team for now.